affordable. It's what I'm about. It's what this government's about. There's two sides to that. So as we're seeing today, bills down by £117. And it's really redistribution from the wealthiest people in the country to everyone else. So a lowering of the £117, things like the mansion tax, but also investment in cleaner, cheaper energy. Wind and solar 40 to 50% cheaper than natural gas. That natural gas price that led to our rise in price during 2022. So it's a clear choice, a clear direction with us, with me, cleaner, cheaper, homegrown energy, or fossil fuels supplied by Putin. I know which one I prefer.
I have an awful lot to respond to that, but I imagine that Jacqueline will too, so it'd be rude of me not to bring you in.
Well, first of all, we don't actually buy any energy from Russia, so I think we'll park that one just for a
No, but I will come back on that point.
Well, you can make them back on that. I mean, anything... I think some time ago we had something like 4% or a very low percentage of energy that we bought in. Nothing like Germany, of course, which is 93%, which is part of the problem. But let's look at this in the round. First of all, no, I don't believe that the bills have gone down at all. To even suggest, I think, from a government that they could reduce your bills by £300, in the scheme of things, I think everybody watching this programme now, and we've had a cold winter, very cold and wet winter, if you're telling me, if anybody's telling me that their bills have gone down or will go down by £150, I think they're in cloud cuckoo land, because the bills, you know, your bills are not coming down. What we also know is, in terms of the licensing for North Sea gas and oil, and I was on an oil rig many years ago, so I know how important it is. But notwithstanding, you know, Denmark made a decision to stop new licences, and they have reversed it. They're very sensible, because they know at the end of the day, of course, renewables are hugely important in the scheme of things. But sometimes the wind doesn't blow, sometimes the sun doesn't shine. We are an industrialised nation. We rely very heavy on energy, very much on our energy, and then the costs incurred from all of that. So the fact that Ed Miliband has determined that there will be no new licensing, I think, is completely ludicrous. And notwithstanding, if you lived in America, for example, we're paying 4 times more for energy costs than people that live in the United States. Now, I know it's a different economy, but even colleagues and friends of mine in Europe, in the former European Union, their energy costs are far less, because they're obviously dealing with this much better. They're not piling on all of these green taxes that we are being absolutely loaded onto us, which is part and parcel of your electricity and your gas bills, ladies and gentlemen. And the difficulty you have when you've got high energy costs, it's the cost then of manufacturing. It's the cost then of those people who need to deliver stuff to us. It's for the small businesses. It's heating your homes. It's all of this. It's a massive project to try and get this right. But by trying to get this right, you do not actually prevent us from having new licences, in my view, in the North Sea.
So let's go back on that. Let's start that. In 2022, we had the highest rise in energy prices in Western Europe. Now, clearly, oil and gas did not prevent that happening, right? North Sea oil and gas did not prevent that. And that's because those prices are set internationally. So Russia, as the world's largest gas exporter, and its change in prices impacts the price that we paid. Natural gas sets our energy price 98% of the time. That's why we saw the highest price in increase in energy, 40% for electricity, 70% for gas, the highest inflation rate, the worst cost of living crisis. So the reason why we had the worst bill rise was because we are dependent upon natural gas. That sets our rate 98% of the time. So yes, absolutely, that Russian price sets our price. In terms of North Sea oil and gas, even if we got it all out, we took it all out the ground. Firstly, it's sold by international prices, but secondly, it's 5 years' worth of supply. Then what do we do? What happens when the North Sea oil and gas runs out?
Well, first of all, it's not 5 years. There will be a limitation at some stage.
Let's say it's 10.
And clearly, we have all been very serious about looking at alternative ways to create energy. And clearly, we rely on various markets, the international markets. You know and I know that the prices really spiked, particularly when the Ukraine-Russia issue took off. That was out of anybody's control. You know, when our former government, and I'm a Conservative, if I thought that they had made the wrong decisions, I would challenge them too. And what I am saying now, we have a different government. what you can't keep doing is saying, well, you know, this is what happened then. We are now, you have been in power for 18 months now.
Yeah.
And frankly, I mean, some of the consequences of this, you've got the wrong energy minister, I'm telling you, because he is absolutely obsessed, Ed Miliband, in this whole sort of green net zero to the cost of everything else. They're not taking into account people, you know, the normal public. And, I mean, I remember fairly recently the closure of the Ford plant in Luton. And those of you will know who know about the car industry, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason that they had to close the Ford plant in Luton was really because of some of the decisions that are being made on net zero.
It's not net zero.
Well, it was raised. We raised it in the House of Lords, and even the trade union guys on the benches opposite, we were agreeing with this. And I said at the time, and it's on the record, the problem you have if you have an energy minister that has so much of an obsession with reaching the net zero, with not looking at the consequences for the general public, these are the sorts of things that happen. So back to the, you know, what we're talking about here. £150 off your bill, £300 off your bill. We'll believe it when we see it.
Well, we're seeing £117 coming down as of this April. As a point of fact, the kilowatt hour per price that you pay for your energy will come down.
Well,
Ofgem has said that today. It absolutely is coming down.
Yeah.
Coming back, though, to the point around energy, why energy prices are high. Like, once again, that is because of the natural gas price. France and Germany do have lower energy costs, but natural gas sets their energy 2/3 of the time. Aside from wind and solar, and I do also believe that nuclear to balance out the grid, as does Ed. And I want to state for our viewers, by the way, I'm really proud of our Energy Secretary. I'm really proud of the work that he's doing, and I'm really proud of fixing the mess. But you talked about 2022, and you said we're in a different time now. What happens if that happens again? What you're saying is, well, if the natural gas price spikes again, we're going to have to live with it again. And I'm saying this. For me, it's about homegrown energy. For me, it's about British energy. And for me, it's about cheaper energy.
Well, I'll just say this. I spent 25 years in the airline industry. And the airline industry was obviously very dependent on fuel.
Yeah, it would be.
And we lived through. These things happen, and it's just the way it is. You can try and we always said when the Middle East caught a cold, or something happened in the Middle East, for example, then the rest of the world often caught pneumonia. Because there are always, very often, external influences that can obviously have a massive impact for all of us, particularly if we're looking at the West, where we're obviously importing, when we were importing.
So why would you not want to stop that? If you have an option to have nuclear, to have wind, to have solar, why would you want to be dependent on that?
No, I'm finishing my point. Ideally, I mean, I actually supported shale gas. I supported us continuing on the fracking line because they had discovered shale gas. Certainly Germany had discovered shale. This is going back to the early 2010-12. And we found in the Bowland Fields up in Lancashire, they have 33 trillion cubic metres of shale gas. Quadrilla decided to, as a private company, they decided to investigate. They also found shale gas in Germany, and Germany had always relied on the Ruhr Valley because Germany was always, again, another coal industry powered the industry in Germany, like it had done here historically. And then, for all sorts of reasons, clearly Germany was very dependent on Putin. That was their green agenda from the Merkel days. So 93% of the energy going into Germany was obviously coming from Russia. So the kibosh was put on the whole fracking issue. We should not have stopped investigating this. We should have continued with this because we actually have high-grade shale gas under our very feet in this country. Sure. So, you know, we shouldn't have stopped. We shouldn't have stopped that under the Tory government, and the Labour government have now ruled it out completely. So
just clarify, I want to just ask you a very direct question.
Anyway.
As a Conservative member of the House of Lords, as a Conservative member, you support fracking in the Midlands and in the North?
Absolutely.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. And so do an awful lot of people, actually.
Well, it wasn't very popular in those constituencies, right? So it wasn't popular in Derbyshire, it wasn't popular elsewhere. I mean, personally, look, my view is that at home they are going to be clipping this and we will be running it later, right? Because, I mean, frankly, those communities hated it, and quite rightfully so. They don't want to see earthquakes. But more than that, they wanted to see lower energy bills, which is also what we're delivering today.
I represented the northwest of England for 15 years. And I clearly knew many people in the constituencies around and about. And nobody's saying anything's perfect, but some of the accusations that were thrown around about fracking in terms of vibration, etc., it was actually minimal. What we do know that there was Russian money thrown into, certainly in the protest that went on. Most of the people that protested about fracking around the Bowland Fields and up near Blackpool didn't even come from the area. They were basically shipped in and they caused an awful lot of problems. But if you'd have had a conversation with a lot of normal people that were actually living around that area, because we were looking at job creation and actually we were looking at energy security in the long term, it wasn't going to be a silver bullet. It was not going to be something that could be solving our problems within a short period of time. But there was certainly, we were on the right trajectory, as far as I'm concerned, to have been putting ourselves in the right place to be self-sufficient when it came to energy production in the UK.
Well, look, I'd say as a Labour MP, at the next election, there's a choice between us not supporting fracking and supporting wind, solar and nuclear versus the other side that does. Absolutely be the electorate who decides. But the last time the electorate did decide, I will say, they were pretty shocked. They were very, very strong opposition in those constituencies. I've
got to say, I think chance to decide for the electorate would be a fine thing, because I bet if you went around and asked how many of the electorate actually agreed with this absolute, what I would call a madness dash to net zero, many people will think it's absolutely absurd. Many people will think it's some kind of almost like an industrial act of self-harm, what we're doing, especially when you see the lengths that we are going to tie ourselves up into knots to achieve net zero, and you see other countries, the likes of China and all the rest of it, they must be laughing their heads off when they see the self-harm that we are committing in this country. And by the way, it was never put out to the electorate, and I bet if there was a referendum tomorrow, many of you would be surprised by the strength of feeling that I know lots of you have on this. I've got to tell you as well, Jeevan, people are not buying this notion about the money coming off the bill. Sandra says, Michelle, energy prices, when you look at what's happening, green taxes, green costs have been removed from them, but essentially it's just been redirected into our taxes. Where's the saving in that? Many of my viewers are pointing out, well, yes, look at what's happening, Michelle. Energy bills coming down now, essentially as we're going into spring and summer, so usage reducing. Let's wait, they say, until we see what happens in the winter. Many of you suspecting that those costs will go straight back up again. Anyway, look, we could talk about that all day long, but I do need to move on because I've just mentioned the sun coming out. And you know what that means now in this country, don't you? An absolute influx in not so small boat crossings. Let's look at that and a whole lot more after the break.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Off that.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. With me, Michelle Dewberry. In just a second, I want to talk to you about the number of not-so-small boat crossings that have occurred, and I also want to talk to you about a new scheme that could see you getting up to £600 per month if you house a refugee in your spare room. Would you be up for that or not? But before I get there, I want to talk to you about what is going on in our NHS. Many of you will be waiting on waiting lists that are now longer than your arms, legs and everything put together. How then do you feel when you see the energy, the costs and all the rest of it that are put into what I would say the obsession with gender ideology? There was a hospital. I actually myself spent over a month in a maternity hospital in Hull, so I know the hospital very well indeed. It stopped me in my tracks. They had a massive sign on their maternity window advising pregnant people that it's not a good idea to smoke when you are pregnant. Also now staff members have been given lists of pronouns that they can use at work. They're allowed to call themselves they, them, if they so wish, and all the rest of it. What is going on here, do you think, Jacqueline?
I honestly don't know. I mean, it's not as though we haven't had this discussion. It's not as though we've sort of ended up at the Supreme Court over things like this. It's not as though we've had high-profile people both in medicine, in sports, you know, across the piece. It wasn't as though we had the Hillary Cass report. You know, we have looked into this very carefully. It's not just in the NHS. Obviously, there's the whole education issue as well for children. And the fact that the NHS, the arrogance within those that are running the NHS is actually astonishing because they're really not getting what the public want to hear in a way. You know, it's not only this sign that you saw, Michelle. You know, there are no such thing as pregnant people. The viewers know women get pregnant and they are female, they are biological females. Men will have... I've never met a man, for example, and I don't want to meet a man who's ever had ovarian cancer. And I've never met a woman, frankly, who has had some of the awful illnesses, for example, prostate, that a male will unfortunately get at times. So I just think it's so insulting, frankly, to people and to anybody's intelligence, the way they're trying to describe this. And their own staff, the way they have treated their own staff. You know, whether it was Sandy Peggy that went through absolute hell and high water. You know, the nurses in Scotland, Jennifer Melley, that lovely nurse who misgendered this prisoner who was in hospital. It's just assumed he was a bloke, had a beard or whatever he had, and then had the audacity to call him Mr. And the next thing she went through the absolute mill. She's fortunately just got her job back. But, you know, these are just a few of the examples, and they're not respecting the NHS and not respecting in my view, their female employees at all.
And if there's one... The reason I'm so concerned about this, Jeevan, is if there's... I mean, there's many areas where biological reality is actually crucial. I would say all areas, actually. But when you're talking about health specifically, your biological reality and a patient's biological reality, etc., is paramount. And if you, as a medical member of staff, don't seem to grasp that and seem to think that people's identity and everything is fluid and all the rest, you end up in a scenario where you've got no accurate record keeping. You've got the farcical situation where you've got grown men going for ultrasounds or x-rays, getting asked if they are pregnant, it's pathetic and a complete wrong priority of the NHS, is it not?
So I think it's a bit of common sense and charity, right? So on the point about, for example, look, if they put pregnant women, I can't imagine anyone would be offended. I do actually think pregnant women sounds a lot more sensible, personally, from a perspective. In terms of this guidance, I mean, look, I can't comment on specific guidance. I wasn't there at the time. I suspect someone put it together being quite well-meaning. I can also see to your point.
This stuff? This is what I don't
can see
understand.
to your point that, like, you're saying, look, is that really a good use of resources? It's a fair point to make,
no,
right?
I'm saying more strongly than that. I'm saying this is a dangerous position to have as a health service when you seem to prioritise gender ideology over biological reality. I think it's dangerous. I think it's opening us up to all kinds of problematic issues. I think it's opening us up to people that are not getting the medical care that they should be getting because there's confusion as to who they are, what have they got, what have they not got. Biology matters, is essential and trumps everything else when it comes to a person's health matters.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's on the other side of that one, to be honest with you. Like, I can't imagine clinical care changing,
clearly they are, Jeevan. Why are you rocking up as a pregnant woman to a maternity hospital, seeing publicly funded posters at the NHS saying most pregnant people who smoke want to stop?
Yeah, so again, like, you know, look, in my view, they should have used the words pregnant women. I can't control or change what they did. But, I mean, there's no one's on the other side of this one, I
I'll
think.
just come in very briefly, if I may.
Yeah.
West Streeting said at the beginning, the policy was supposed to be updated while you have been in, and West Streeting was quite clear, I think, some time ago, and he said, we can't have this ambiguity, this is ludicrous, we've got these court cases that have been going on as well, I mean, tribunals and all sorts of things. So it is on your watch. It is on your watch. You have been able to. You've got a very active, proactive health secretary, and doesn't appear to have been able to stop it. So I think, you know, they need to get a reality check because those running these trusts seem to be completely ignoring then the advice that is actually given.
This is a dangerous trajectory, and some of you might be sitting there going, oh, why is she getting so het up about a poster or a pronoun? It's not. This poster is just a minuscule example of a much broader direction of travel. You will have seen, of course, the proposals to be doing puberty blocker trials on young, very young children. Presently, that trial has been paused. Good. I hope it actually gets cancelled. But tell me, ladies and gents, what you think about this. Do you have kids? Do you use your hospital? Is this something that concerns you or not? I can tell you now, a spokesperson for King's College Hospital said our aim is to ensure our hospitals are welcoming and safe environments for everyone, where individuals feel respected and able to access the care they need at all times. Why aren't you so focused then on making people that do not believe all of this gender ideology nonsense? Why aren't you making those people feel welcomed and respected? Why aren't you making those members of staff that work there who do not share this ideological set of beliefs, why aren't they being made to feel welcomed and respected and so on? Anyway, we also went to the Care Board about that poster for comments. We did not receive one. Coming up after the break, ladies and gents, would you house a refugee in your spare room for £600 per month? That is a proposal from one council. Let's take a look after the break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Plenty of warm and sunny weather across Europe now. Blustery showers in Cyprus, windy in the Canaries. Those two regions the exception to the mostly dry and settled theme. High pressure across Central Europe, bringing plenty of sunshine through Spain, Portugal, into France. Italy seeing above average temperatures as well, 17 or 18 Celsius widely. But we do have these showers across the Greek islands into Cyprus with some gusty winds.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A mild night tonight and still pretty mild tomorrow, though not quite the same numbers that we've seen today. A dry start for many tomorrow, but there is more rain on the way. This low pressure system has been moving through. It's got a cold front associated with it, but it's a fairly feeble and weak cold front, just bringing a few spots of rain here and there, but quite a bit of cloud across central parts of England. A few showers will keep going through the night across southern Scotland and some for a time across Northern Ireland, but it does turn a bit dry here through the early hours. Largely dry and clear across eastern parts of England, and as I said, temperatures holding up, a mild night, 9 or 10 Celsius to start Thursday for most. Now, most will also start Thursday dry, but predominantly cloudy, and there will be some further outbreaks of rain across parts of northern and western Scotland. The rain's going to pep up through the day across western Scotland too, as it will also for Northern Ireland. Generally a dry start here. The odd shower over northern England and Wales, but again, most places starting dry. Some brightness in eastern England, and it's the southeast which is most likely to have a dry day tomorrow. But elsewhere, the rain moves in, so it turns damp across Northern Ireland through the morning. Western Scotland's turning pretty soggy too, and then that rain trickles into northwest England, West Wales, southwest England by lunchtime. Eventually, we'll see some rain getting to the east of the Pennines and across the Midlands. As I said, the southeast generally staying dry, but cloudier than today. Not as warm, but still 13, 14 is above average. The wind's quite noticeable, quite a gusty breeze blowing everywhere during Thursday, and still quite lively gusts of wind likely on Friday. Low pressure, you can see the circulation there moving across the country. Some uncertainty about the exact distribution of the rain, but could be a wet day for some. Again, though, still quite mild in the south, especially if we see any sunny spells, but it is turning a touch cooler once more across the far north. Goodbye.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A720 westbound at Lasswade to Strayton, the road is partially blocked by a broken down vehicle. The M4 eastbound at junction 32, Corryton off-slip, is slow with congestion. In Tameside, the A628 westbound between the A6024 and the A57 is queuing, with delays of around 10 minutes. Northamptonshire's M1 northbound between Junction 1 and Junction 5 is also busy. And on the trains, Greater Anglia has disruption through Tottenham Hale, and northern services are disrupted between Skipton and Carlisle. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry. Alongside me I've got Conservative peer and former MEP Baroness Jacqueline Foster. Alongside her I've got Jeevan Sander, the Labour MP. Look, the sun of course is out, and you know what that means. It means the boats have been flying and flooding in. Get this, ladies and gents, almost 600 people have crossed the channel today. This is the biggest one-day surge this year. I mean, Jeevan, I thought that you guys are going to smash the gangs and all the rest of it. The sun comes out, you've lost control again.
Well, there's a lot more to do. I'm not going to try and pretend that this is where we want to be. There's a long way to go, and there is no silver bullet, right? So if I come on the show and say, look, don't worry, Michelle, I've got it, we're just going to do this thing and sort it out, you know, that's not going to be the case. Enforcement is part of it, right? Now, deportations are up, that's good news. Arrests are up, that's good news. But clearly there are a lot of people crossing the channel. So part of it's about detection, part of it's about enforcement, and part of it's about the dealing with France as well. But there just isn't a silver bullet on this stuff. There's a lot further to go.
But I know that, I know all of that, and the figures would demonstrate that you're not grasping things currently as they stand. So do you feel, do you have faith and trust in actually the measures that you're talking about actually stopping these crossings? Because I don't.
So let me talk about, for example, the one-in, one-out deal with France, right? Yeah. Now, it's a pilot deal at the moment, and people would say there's not enough, and I agree, there's a lot further to go, but every little does help. Yeah. But if you go further and fast enough,
but hang on then,
let's finish this one up, right? if you get it high enough,
Yeah.
you reduce any incentive to come across, because at that point the deal is with France. Therefore, you know, if you get on the beach on the other side, actually it's going to be a cross back. So
Yeah.
that's a good way forward.
No,
it has worked
it's not-
elsewhere,
it's not a good way forward, Gibbon,
clearly there's a lot
because
further to go.
Yes, but you will know on the one in, one out, for example, you will know that you've had some of these people doing some kind of demented herky-jerky in and out and in and out. You will also know that we've been a net recipient in that model, and you will also know that a collection of these people now funded in part by my viewers and the other taxpayers in this country are now trying to take the government to court for that deal.
So I can't comment about that particular court case. Obviously, I can't comment on any kind of live court case. More broadly, yeah, I agree there's a lot further to go on this stuff, right? But there's also no... I've not heard a single other solution from somebody who said this is the way to deal with this,
I've
right?
got a single solution.
Go on.
I would not allow people to make that crossing. I would put the Navy in that water, and I would make it damn clear to people at the other end, if you get on that boat and you spend all of that money making that crossing, guess what? You're not going to get to the other side.
We are not going to have the Royal Navy shoot down boats with innocent people on it.
I didn't say... hang on. Let's not
hold
be
a second.
ridiculous.
The Royal Navy is not going to do that.
I did not say shoot them down. I am not suggesting the Royal, the Navy, all the rest of it, doing target practice on these not-so-small boats. So please, let's be clear about that. What I am saying is you would have the Royal Navy presenting some kind of blockade, making it clear that these boats will not pass. These people then will be onboarded and taken back from whence they came.
So the channel is quite big. But even if you were to pick them up in international waters, the French would not say you could drop them on our shore. We wouldn't say the same thing, by the way.
How do you know they wouldn't?
Well, they would not, right?
If I'm a French minister, I want this problem to stop as much as Britain would want this problem to stop. So actually, if Britain could come with me with a solution and said, do you know what, we're literally going to stop these crossings. So therefore, all of these people now will not be flooding into France to try and make the crossing, because they now realise they're not going to be making the crossing. So in the short term, Mr Macron, you're going to receive these people back again. The medium, very quick medium term, means they're not going to be making that crossing.
But the French clearly are not going to accept that deal, because they would have done so. We could take everyone who came on a boat right now. You wouldn't have to stop them in the channel, would you? You just let them come onto English shores and then fly them back. But clearly the French are not going to say that. That's just not where we are.
But how do you know? Because your starting point, the second I start mentioning the Navy, and I mention this, by the way, because I know lots of my viewers will be shouting this at the screens, the second I mention the Navy, you're immediately thinking, no, we're not doing that. We're not. No.
The Navy will not, because there's another side of it. First and foremost, the channel's pretty big, right? The second bit is the Navy vessels will not go towards an inflatable dinghy. For the obvious point, if you were to puncture the dinghy, people again could drown.
Maloney, by the way, she's got the go-ahead to be able to deploy the equivalent of the Navy there, so we'll be interested to see how that happens. But anyway, Jacqueline, your thoughts?
Well, the thing is, where do you start? I mean, we took a lot of criticism for this, quite rightly. And we have another government that comes in for more than 18 months. They ditched the Rwanda plan, which was only part of what hopefully could have started to deal with sending people back somewhere. And their raison d'etre was smash the gangs and stop the boats. We spent £500 billion they've given £500 billion to the French. Up to now. They invented the scheme called one in, one out. I think there's been 93 in and 97 out, or something ridiculous like that. You're quite right, there's been quite a few people who've been deported. They are people who they'll give a few £1,000 to, and they've deported, funnily enough, a lot of them back to Albania, where we've got an arrangement in any event. They've been deported somewhere else, which appears to be OK. So in terms of really deporting those that you want to deport, they're still not doing that. Shabana Mahmood talks the talk, but she certainly doesn't walk the walk, because we're getting the same old rhetoric day in and day out. And as Michelle has said, I mean, and has been reported, you know, we've got a bit of sun comes out. There's no way that people are not going to come over. There's no deterrent. You're not producing a deterrent. You haven't come up with a deterrent because 600 people have come across just today. And so the situation hasn't improved. And so actually to sort of sit there, for the government to say, you know, it's not working. It's not working. You're absolutely clueless, frankly. And Michelle's point on the Royal Navy, Well, of course nobody's going to be shooting anybody. That was a ridiculous thing for you to say to her in any event. But at the end of the day, I like what Maloney has done. And I think we're going to have to get to a position at some time where we're going to have to look at that, how we can prevent them actually crossing, and how we're going to deal with actually allowing anybody anywhere to stay once they get here.
So where would you put them? Because you would say, if you were to have, let's work something right. You've got 50,000 people who come across a year, and you want them roaming around our town centres with nowhere to sleep. No, but you've said when they come, you would just let them free. So what will we do now? Now, let's see what we have done, right? We have reduced the backlog, right? We've stopped the number of people, reduced the number of people going to hotels, and I wish those hotels weren't there. I wish we weren't spending £5 billion a year, which your government left us with. 160,000 people in the backlog. That's why we have increased the number of caseworkers and getting that down. But I say this to you now, the idea that we would just say, no, we're not going to do anything. I am not going to be in a position as a Labour MP to say we're going to have 50,000 people a year roaming around this country at a point where we don't know where they are or what they're doing, who will be desperate.
What you're basically saying, all the steps you've taken, you can't stop them.
I'm saying, no, that's not what I'm saying at all. No, that's not fair at all, right? There is a lot further to go, but clearly there's a path forward.
Has actually brought the numbers down. The highest number were last year, higher than any other year, on your watch. And whatever you're doing or saying, it's not making any difference at all.
And I've got to tell you, both of you, none of what you say washes with my viewers. My viewers don't trust either of your parties, I hate to break it to you, on these not-so-small Burke crossings. And when we talk about 600 people, just so everyone's clear, this will infuriate many of my viewers because it's not just an abstract number of 600 people. This is 600 people that will now be prioritised for housing, prioritised for health services, and you name it. And you asked the question, where would you house these people? Well, one council, Gloucestershire Council, they're proposing a solution, £600 per month up to, if you house one of these people in your spare room. Is this then something that you would explore doing? Is this a potential solution to reducing the money that we're spending on hotels? Let's explore this after the break. I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Dewbs & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray,
are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Dewbs & Co. You can hear chuntering in the background. That is Ms. Jacqueline Foster. You come back in from the break. She's yakking away. Anyway, she's there alongside her. I've got Jeevan Sander as well. I was asking you, would you then be looking to accept up to £600 a month to house a refugee in your spare room? I wonder, are there similar schemes if you can essentially adopt a British homeless person off the street and get £600 a month? Please write in if you know of one of those. Anyway, this is Gloucestershire Council. Is this the right approach?
It's a Lib Dem council. I've no idea what the thinking is behind it. I've only seen the poster itself. I can only assume that from their point of view, it is saving money in some way. But I honestly can't comment upon a scheme I know nothing about.
Well, I'll comment. It looks like a reasonable idea. And it was this sort of idea that we put in place for Ukraine. And I have friends who had, and she's still there actually, has a daughter, a little boy, sorry, and the wife, because obviously the men remained in Ukraine, they're still fighting the war. But this is rather a different thing altogether, because when you're looking and you're saying that, a migrant can come and live with you, are we talking about the ones that have come in on the boats, who've thrown their paperwork away? Do we actually know, from a security point of view, who these people are? And how long are they supposed to stay there? And say they don't have somewhere else to go after a short period of time. What sort of money are they going to have? I think it's, I don't know, is there an election coming up or something in that constituency or whatever? I'm not sure. It'd be fascinating to see the details in actual fact. I've got no problem with people renting rooms out to anybody, providing that we have a rental market, actually. And as I said, if it is an emergency, we have helped the Ukrainian families and it's worked extremely well. But we knew where they had come from. So there would be a big question mark, in my view, over security, over who these people were, because they are predominantly men. There are very few when you're looking at women or children. You're talking very, very few numbers there. And so I think there's a lot of question marks there, Michelle.
Yeah, so this is, it's kind of like a scheme. I'm just looking it up now. Do you know what I would love to see? Where's the equivalent thing for all the Brits that are homeless on the streets? That's what I would really love to see when you're looking into this scheme. There's all wraparound care. You're able to help them find employment and so on and so forth. Anyway, look, before I do leave you tonight, I do want to ask you, what is fly tipping like in your area? A new report has come out tonight. Oh, by the way, I do have to tell you as well, we went to Gloucestershire Council for comment. We didn't receive one. So new fly tipping figures have come out today. Get this is just in England alone, 9% rise on these figures. Do you think we're taking fly tipping seriously enough?
Well, we've increased the amount of enforcement funding up by 50%, so that's good news. On the other side of it, clearly, look, if you fly tip, you should be prosecuted. It is a criminal action. But more than that, of course, I would say thank you to the viewers, the people for reporting it, because if it's not reported, we can't really tackle it. But on the other side, yeah, clearly it's unacceptable. When you see it, it's an antisocial way to live.
Fines for this kind of activity have fallen over the last year, and only 0.2% of these incidents result in court action. Jacqueline?
Well, I completely agree there, because the thing is, it's endemic. And there are areas. I remember dealing with somebody some years ago, in actual fact, and it was a massive site, and it had been sort of used initially. It was just going to be used temporarily, and then of course it's not temporary, and they're often actually in quite urban areas. They're on the edge of an urban area, so it's not like even in the middle of nowhere. But I think the penalties are clearly not hard enough. I think people should be jailed for this, because this is a big health issue apart from everything else. And as you said, it's expanded. But I think also the councils, local authorities have been asleep at the wheel. and a lot of residents will have called in, they will have reported it, and nothing is done. The one I dealt with had been going on for a number of years, and I was involved with the Environment Agency and all of them, and everybody's telling you how you can't stop it, when actually their job is to make sure that they do stop it. And then when they do find something like this, that the people are prosecuted, and they are actually responsible for paying to get these sites cleared up. Often, though, it runs into millions, and the farmers are getting the short end of the stick because they're dumping on farmland, which is not sort of nobody's land. They're actually farmland. They're going through hedges and opening whatever, and then farmers are getting bills for like $1.5 million from the local authority to get rid of this. So it's an absolute shambles.
So, look, there's more powers and more money going in to seize vehicles, for example. I think we'd agree it's a massive problem. It has to be dealt with.
Yeah, but
I do think on the other side of it. But then there's a hold on. Yeah, I take the point about action, but you can't really have action without the money, right? You need resources and you move forward. If I don't have someone there to find the fly tipping or enforce it, then I can't deal with the problem.
The laws are in place. The laws are in place, but the
them?
penalties have not been strict enough.
Well, there you go. I'm imagining that many of you will have had your neighbourhoods blighted. I always remember some guy who was ditching tyres somewhere. One of the best things I've ever seen, actually, is that they rounded these tyres up, found the fella's address and dumped them back in his front garden. That put a smile on my face. Anyway, look, Merseyside, very quickly, the kids have had a competition there in the Merseyside Council. They've named their local bin lorries. I can't end my show without telling you the winners. So these garbage trucks, basically. Bin Diesel was one of them. Oprah Bin Free. The Bincredible Hulk, which I absolutely love. I love some of these. Binny the Pooh, Bin Kenobi, and Bindiana Jones. Well done, kids. Anyway, look, that's all I've got time for. Thanks to my panel. Thanks. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Evening, welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A mild night tonight and still pretty mild tomorrow, though not quite the same numbers that we've seen today. A dry start for many tomorrow, but there is more rain on the way. This low pressure system has been moving through. It's got a cold front associated with it, but it's a fairly feeble and weak cold front, just bringing a few spots of rain here and there, but quite a bit of cloud across central parts of England. A few showers will keep going through the night across southern Scotland and some for a time across Northern Ireland, but it does turn a bit dry here through the early hours. Largely dry and clear across eastern parts of England, and as I said, temperatures holding up. A mild night, 9 or 10 Celsius to start Thursday for most. Now, most will also start Thursday dry, but predominantly cloudy, and there will be some further outbreaks of rain across parts of northern and western Scotland. The rain's going to pep up through the day across western Scotland too, as it will also for Northern Ireland. Generally a dry start here. The odd shower over northern England and Wales, but again, most places starting dry. Some brightness in eastern England, and it's the southeast which is most likely to have a dry day tomorrow. But elsewhere, the rain moves in, so it turns damp across Northern Ireland through the morning. Western Scotland's turning pretty soggy too, and then that rain trickles into northwest England, West Wales, southwest England by lunchtime. Eventually we'll see some rain getting to the east of the Pennines and across the Midlands. As I said, the southeast generally staying dry, but cloudier than today. Not as warm, but still 13-14 is above average. The wind's quite noticeable, quite a gusty breeze blowing everywhere during Thursday, and still quite lively gusts of wind likely on Friday. Low pressure, you can see the circulation there moving across the country. Some uncertainty about the exact distribution of the rain, but could be a wet day for some. Again, though, still quite mild in the south, especially if we see any sunny spells. But it is turning a touch cooler once more across the far north. Goodbye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M4 westbound, expect heavy congestion between junction 24 at Coldra and junction 26 at Malpas, with lanes restricted. On the M60 clockwise, queues are building between junction 13 and junction 15, particularly after junction 14 access, with delays of around 10 minutes. In Derbyshire, the A38 southbound is slow between the A516 and the junction with the A50, adding around 20 minutes. And on the trains, Greater Anglia has disruption on some routes, and London Overground has disruption between Cheshunt and Edmonton Green. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the final week to see how you could win £30,000 in tax-free cash. You wouldn't need to treat yourself to a holiday. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a